are now listening to the War Report Podcast Network.
Sooner Nation, welcome in to the Sooner Spotlight, your all-access pass for all things Oklahoma Sooners athletics. I am your host, Josh Mahler. You can find me on X at @RealJoshMahler. Check me out over there for all of the updates on this show. Of course, we're still a newer production, so not going to go through all this hassle of creating new social media just to try to keep up with more social media. Let's just keep it simple. Go over and follow me. I will make sure to keep you updated on this show. Again, we're a new production, so please help us out by getting started by hitting that like button. All right, hitting that like button, a completely free way to support the show. Very easy way to do it. Just hit that like button. Also, comment down below. We've been being overwhelmed with all of the comments. It has been absolutely amazing to see the outreach from you guys as an audience. I have absolutely loved this so far. We've only had 2 episodes. Okay, there's been several videos off of those episodes, but only 2 episodes. And we've had over 90 comments. That is just absolutely amazing. So guys, please keep on dropping down in the comments section. That helps us beat the algorithms, helps other Sooner fans find this podcast. And then, of course, if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button. We have been climbing up in that subscriber count. We want to keep on see that, just keep on jumping through the roof. So we are very excited for everything that we've got in store here for this podcast. Going to keep on bringing you guys great content. So please hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, comment down below. And since we are a new production, again, we're looking for ways to stand out from the rest. So please, if you have a way that you think that we could stand out, maybe there's something missing from other Sooner shows that you wish would be implemented, please reach out to us. Either DM me on X, that's at @RealJoshMahler, formerly known as Twitter over there. Go check out that and check me out over there. You can follow me on there, get all the updates, but you can also DM me with any kind of suggestions that you would have for the show. We would love to hear from you guys. And then also you could always reach out to us by email as well. That's SoonerSpotlightPod@gmail.com. That's SoonerSpotlightPod@gmail.com if you want to see something new from this new production. But today we're going to get into Sooner Fall Camp. It started last week. We're a little late getting to the party, but I wanted to sit back and wait for the entire week to fold and see what we saw from the players, see what we heard from the coaches, and really compile that all together rather than trying to jump in maybe midweek and learning something later on that we could have just included in with the entire bundle together. So went through and was trying to read up on a lot of the stuff that we saw from fall camp, watched a lot of different videos, some of the things that we saw just with the talent that we saw out in the field. And of course, on social media, you're not going to get everything. So we have to jump into it with the insiders, see what they're seeing, kind of see what they're hearing. So that's exactly what I did and tried to compile all of the most important information to give to you guys as Sooner fans. We are going to start off first and foremost with injury updates. Wanted to jump into the injury updates and check out what's going on in that department because I think this is the most detrimental when it comes to a football team is how much of this are you going to have to worry about going into the season? And of course, there's been a few injuries coming from last season into this season that we were a little bit worried about, maybe concerned as of how they're progressing. First, starting off with Arnold Anthony, he is still expected to miss the season opener on August 30th. Not a big concern, it's just Temple, so we don't necessarily need all of our talent out there, and most of the backups are going to be playing in that game anyways. Right now, Oklahoma, I think, is projected as like a 42.5 point favorite, so no worries there. Hope that he can just sit back, get well rested. Right now, he's not really partaking in practice, but he is moving around a lot. Even Brent Venables talked about how much he is still running around, getting his feet underneath himself. And so we're seeing a lot of good progress from Arnold Anthony, the transfer from Michigan that showed a lot of promise early in the season, had that injury that really had him out the rest of the season. It was a really big bummer not to see him out on the field because we knew what kind of difference maker he could have been in that wide receiver room. But moving on from Andrel Anthony. Hopefully he has a speedy recovery. But we also have wide receiver Jaleel Farouk still out. He was injured later on in the season last year, really late in the season. And this is one that is a little concerning, but really good news from that front because Jaleel Farouk, he's possibly still limited in some areas. Brent Venables did say that he's about 90% right now, but is fully expected to be ready to play by the first game against Temple. So we're going to see Jaleel Farouk out on the field early in the season. We're going to see him plenty in the season. So very excited to hear that news because we know how good of a wide receiver and how sure of hands Jaleel Farouk can have. And he's been a part of even some special teams and things like that, which we'll talk a little bit more about. Not really sure what to expect from that side of the ball. So Jaleel Farouk looking pretty good. Another one was Dasan McCullough. This is a guy that when he came in, I was extremely happy. I was extremely excited to see what he could do. He came transferred in from Indiana, and there's really been no real reports on him other than BV saying that they're kind of holding him right now. I don't really know what that means. I don't know what's happened to him, why he would be showing up on an injury report. But as of right now, it seems like it's nothing too severe to worry about. We're definitely going to try to stay tuned on this. Hopefully whatever was wrong with him is healed very quickly. Speedy recovery for him for the transfer from Indiana. Dasan is a phenomenal player, another one of those big-time players in that goal line stand against Texas too. So Dasan McCullough is definitely one to check out for on the injury front. Definitely a guy that we don't want injured. You know, when we're talking about this Sooners team coming forward into the 2024 season, we really want to see that defense shine, and it's going to be hard to see that defense shine without all of our big-time players. But going on, the next one I want to bring up is a big question mark around the media landscape, and that's our offensive line. What is that offensive line looking like after 1 week? Now, the downside to this is that it has literally just been 1 week of fall camp, that we have only seen a small amount of snaps with all of these players, and we're going to see them shift around. Early in the camps, you're going to see maybe even a possible future third stringer come in and step in for some first string snaps. That's just to see if he's ready, and if he doesn't compete, then they just end up moving him down later on closer to the season. So you're going to see a lot of rotations, and so far we have seen a lot of rotating, but there was definitely some leaders in a few spots, and we'll talk about some of them that I have read about, some of them that I've heard about. And so first, starting off with Josh Bates and Branson Hickman and the battle that they're going in over center. This is one that was a little surprising to me to hear about because I really thought that Hickman would be the starter, and I still think that he will be the starter come time of season because of the experience that he has at SMU. And SMU is not the same SMU that we might have been able to talk about a few seasons ago, you know, backing up maybe 5-10 years ago when they were just a small school. SMU is bringing in some big guys, and Branson Hickman is definitely one of those guys. But Josh Bates battling out with him and both of them kind of seeing those first string snaps, to me is a really good thing. I want to see them get that chemistry where Jackson Arnold feels comfortable with several guys under center snapping him the ball. I don't want it to be a situation where we have somebody come in and there's not that chemistry there. So early on in the fall camp, you really can't be too upset with this. Really excited to see a couple of guys and to see battles like this early in fall camp. So I think this is all part of the design, and I love to see it, and we should love to see it as Oklahoma fans as well. Going on to left tackle, it's been a little bit, again, another battle between Jacob Sexton and Michael Tarkin. This is one that should not surprise anybody. We saw Jacob Sexton come in last year, and he even moved around a little bit, and he was phenomenal with where we needed him to step in. So this is definitely something that I look at, and I think that this is great. So love to see that Jacob Sexton is getting in there, but Michael Tarkin, a transfer from USC, a 6'6", 317-pound dude. For those of you who have not seen this guy standing up against other people out there on the field, this is what we need when we talk about getting SEC ready, especially down in the trenches. So this is something I'm very excited to see. Love to see that from this battle too. So we saw Jacob Sexton a little bit, primarily working at that left tackle right now, but I'm sure we'll see him move around, maybe step in somewhere else further down the line. Jake Taylor, this seems to be a guy that's been filling in at right tackle with the first team quite a bit early on in fall camp. We saw Spencer Brown working a little bit more with the second string team. So this was something, not necessarily shocking to me, but a little bit of a surprise because Spencer Brown, a transfer from Michigan State, I really expected him to come in. I thought for sure he would be a starter right off the bat, but this is also first week of fall camp. We're not jumping to any conclusions thinking that somebody's going to take somebody's starting position, whatever the case is. But still, with Jake Taylor, the reason why it's not a shock to me, Jake Taylor's been with this team for 3 years now. He's going into his third year. So it'll be hard to beat somebody that has that much experience practicing with this team and then also getting into this system with Coach B. Coach Biedenbaugh, if you don't know who he is, the greatest offensive line coach in college football, in my opinion. I don't know a whole lot of other offensive line coaches, but from what I know about Coach Biedenbaugh and his track record, I have a hard time not believing that he's the best, if not one of the best. Okay, so give me a little bit of a slack there, knowing who he is. But yeah, so Jake Taylor, being his third season, coming back for OU, I think it's time. And then going back to Jacob Sexton as well, kind of hearing him, he feels like this year is the year that he's ready to start playing, which is a really good thing to hear from him. But it's also a worrisome thing if he's not a starter this year. I have full confidence in him, in his abilities. But this offensive line is really looking deeper than I think a lot of people are believing. But anyways, moving on to the left guard position, it seems to be Heath Ozeda. It looks like it's his position right now. But Eddie Pierre-Louis has been making some great impressions as a freshman, which is a great thing to see from a freshman stepping in and impressing your coaches early on in camp. I love to see that from him. I love the fact that we've got a freshman stepping in and somebody who would be comfortable stepping in if it came to game time and we needed him to step in at left guard. So love to see that. Going on to Febechi Nwaiwu, a transfer from North Texas. He's actually been playing more with the first string, which is good to see. And I almost want to say that this one's shocking too, but he's been right over Garion Hatchett. Garion Hatchett is a transfer from Washington, a big dude, but he's also been kind of injury prone in his past, and that's been one of his criticisms. And so, I totally understand Febechi stepping in over him there. So, I mean, to see these guys battling it out, this is going to be a really good one. But overall, as long as both of them can stay healthy, I love to see this kind of depth on the bench, especially on the offensive line, which has been, again, one of the biggest question marks for this season for the Oklahoma Sooners. Very excited, very curious to see what I'm seeing there on the offensive line. Everything I've heard so far, specifically from the coaching staff and from insiders, I haven't heard anything bad at all. If anything, it's all been very good news coming from that offensive line so far. From insiders, I'm hearing more just still kind of a skepticism. Who's going to take the starting position? Who's going to be sitting on the bench? How deep are we going to be? How healthy can we stay there on the offensive line? And of course, very reasonable concerns. But when you talk to the coaching staff and you talk to other players, I've heard a lot of good things coming from them in interviews. So very excited going into this upcoming season. And though the nation is going to have their doubts, I have no doubt that with Coach Biedenbaugh and throwing in the mix Coach Schmidt, the strength and conditioning coach, I have no reason to believe that both of these amazing coaches won't have that front ready to go when it comes time for seasons. So yeah, the offensive line is definitely something that we should maybe watch for and something that we should pay attention to, because that is going to be the most important coming into this first season in the SEC. I'm not too worried though. Going on to some standout players. Standout players, again, week 1 of fall camp, so it's not like we've had a whole lot of looking around and being able to see these standout players that are just going to have a huge season, but guys that you look at from week 1 and say, man, for being week 1, they showed up ready to go. First off, starting off with one that I don't think would take many people by surprise, Peyton Bowen. Peyton Bowen is a guy that many people want to see play, and I'm in the same boat. I'm right there with you guys. I want to see Peyton Bowen out on the field. I want to see him getting a lot of snaps. I want to see him out there in multiple positions. But we have to recognize that this secondary, I feel like, is in a really good spot in depth. Now, Coach Venables has talked a little bit about how the depth in the corner position isn't as deep as he would like to see, but I think he has higher standards, and that's something I love to hear. When I look at the recent Oklahoma Sooners defenses and the way that one corner would go out and we wouldn't have somebody to step in to fill in their position, man, that is something that this year I don't have as many worries, and I love to see the depth over there. So understand that Peyton Bowen may not be able to step in. He may not play too much on the defense. I think you are going to see him on defense. I think you're going to see him out there often, but maybe not a ton of snaps. So this is really exciting. I do want to see him out there, but recognize that Brent Venables knows what he's doing with this defense, and we just have to have confidence in him ultimately. There's been a lot of hype around Peyton Bowen being a big-time special teams player as well. We saw that last year. He had a couple of punt blocks that were big-time moments too, and big-time kind of momentum changers. So I have no doubts that he's going to be special on the special teams. Pun not really intended there, but he's going to be a great special teams player and one that really wants to get out there. In an interview, he said, quote, "I'm going to try to work my hardest to get to that position, being the returner position. I've just got to show the coaches that's something I want to do and that I can do. I've just got to prove to them day by day that I have the ability to do that, which is returning." He also seemed eager to play both kick return and punt return. I don't think he is wanting to just settle for one. I think he wants to get out there for both. We saw him in Texas at high school. When he was in high school, being an amazing punt returner. I have no doubts that he could do that again here at the next level here in college too. So very excited to see what role he plays on the defense as a depth player, but then also to see him step in for special teams as well. Going on to J.J. Hester, this is another wide receiver to add to this stacked receiving core. I think Oklahoma is top 3, top 5 at the worst in the wide receiver room right now. And the reason why I would say only maybe top 5 is because there's a few guys that we haven't gotten a whole lot of a taste of within this offense. And of course, this is going to be a new offense, so I guess you could say we really haven't seen much of any of them from this offense. But I just mean this roster, which, you look at these guys. I mean, J.J. Hester is one of those that we haven't seen a whole lot from, but he transferred from Mizzou in 2022, and again, we haven't heard much from him, but it seems like he's been seeing a lot of reps with the first team offense, which you have to think with guys like Jalil Farouk only being at 90%, and then Andro Anthony still kind of not practicing with the team in those drills. This is something that we love to hear, is that we've got another wide receiver to add to that room for Jackson Arnold. So that's really awesome to see. Love to see the depth over there, and also to know that we're deeper than we originally thought. I was even going as far to say as Brendan Thompson being one of those guys that I think we're going to hear a lot more, especially as that deep threat. That's going to be kind of one of those wild cards hidden in our back pocket. And now we've got another guy, J.J. Hester, who's been making some big plays and making a lot of big noise just in week 1 for fall camp. So this is a lot of excitement coming from just week 1. Going on to the running back position, we know Taylor Tatum is a freshman that we expect big things, and I'm hearing that he's a running back that, as a freshman, is going to see quite a bit of play time out on the fields. And of course, Gavin Sawchuk, most likely going to be that first string main guy to throw in there. But Taylor Tatum, hearing a lot of good things about him, but also running back Javonte Barnes. Yes, that's right. We still have him on the squad, and he has some reps with the first team so far in this first week in fall, which is really cool to see. I love to see that with Javonte Barnes. He had kind of a disappointing season last year, according to him, which we can all understand, kind of a confusing season where it just didn't really fall together, and I believe he had injury problems as well, if memory serves me correctly. So I'm really excited and really interested to see what his role is going to be here on this offense, since we already kind of have 2 running backs that we know we're going to lean on. How are we going to get Javonte Barnes mixed in with that 3 running back rotation. That's going to be really cool to see and exciting because the running back position takes on such a big role, whether it's receiving out of the backfield, running up the gut, being that speed guy for the edge, maybe a guy that steps in there as a blocker. So you're going to see many different scenarios for one running back. It's nice to know that you've got several running backs that you can split that load off with. Javonte Barnes seems to be a guy that we can do that. So there seems to be plenty of confidence coming from the coaching staff when it comes to Javonte. Very excited to see where exactly he steps in. Going on, another wide receiver, one that shouldn't be a surprise, but Deion Burks making a lot of really big plays, which may not be a good thing if you're talking about just the overall defense. But Deion Burks making big plays and recognizing that, man, something that us as Sooner fans, we don't want to admit is that he's going to be an upgrade from Stoops. Now, he will never get the love and the support that Stoops got, and Stoops will be idolized because he's the legend's son that came in and just played phenomenal football, very tough, hard-nosed football, now going to play with his dad for the Arlington Renegades too, so really cool story there. But Burks, again, won't ever have the love and support, but I do think because of the big plays that he's capable of having, as the season goes on, I think he's going to be a fan favorite. From what I've seen and from what I've heard, and from what I understand with his relationship with Jackson Arnold right now on the field, he's going to be a big-time player, one that we're going to love to watch. So Sooner fans, be ready for this Purdue transfer to come in and take the entire Sooner Nation by storm the way that he plays. Very excited to see him. Now going on to the defense, I think overall we look at some of these standout players, and I wanted to throw this section in with the standout players, but I've got specific defensive players to watch. Starting off over on the defense, I want to start off with Woody Washington. This is a guy that coming back, we couldn't be more excited to know that Woody Washington is coming back. I mean, I look at Woody Washington and what he's done throughout his career and the strides that he's made, not just as a player, but then also into this new system, this new Brent Venables system. You look at guys, and I think we can easily look at a guy like Danny Stutzman and what he's been able to do, or even Ethan Downs, what he's been able to do into this new system. Those are guys that we've heard a lot from and about in this new transition to a defensive-led team. But Woody Washington hasn't been talked about a ton, and if you go back and watch how he's improved from year to year, Woody Washington is a phenomenal DB, and it looks like he's expected to play at corner, which is really fun and really awesome to hear because he's been great at the position. Brent Venables even said in an interview, his primary position is at corner, and he's done a nice job there. That's a quote from Brent Venables. He went on also expressing how Woody would be moved around, just as we've seen in the past, and he might be moved around the field, and they can rely on him in different positions if needed. We've seen that from Woody Washington. We've seen him step back and be able to play safety just fine, but Brent Venables wants that corner position to be as strong as possible, and he doesn't want that to break. So Woody Washington, he feels very certain that he's going to be a corner. That's his primary position, and he's extremely happy to have him there, extremely happy to see the growth from him as well. Another defensive guy to watch is Gentry Williams, a guy that we didn't hear a whole lot of last year, but we know what he's capable of. This entire defense was so much more electric with Gentry Williams out on the field, and we saw that. Every time that he was out on the field, it felt like he was making a big play. But something that we didn't, I should say we, as in some of us anyway, some of us may not have noticed something that Brent Venables did notice, and it was Gentry Williams' consistency. This is something that they're looking to work on with him, and something that I think Gentry Williams is also looking to work on. Gentry Williams started in 10 games last year, but he really only played enough snaps to account for maybe 4 or 5 games. So that's something that's kind of interesting when you look at it, and a lot of that apparently stems from just consistency. We saw those big plays, but can he keep on making those big plays? And Venables, he really wants him to work on that consistency, and also hoping that he can stay healthy. Brent Venables mentioned that Gentry has, quote-unquote, got exponential growth and potential ahead of him, and that he also, quote, thinks that we'll see tremendous leap from Gentry Williams just in camp alone. So, I mean, this is some big words, some big compliments coming from Brent Venables about Gentry Williams. And I think one thing that Brent Venables saw that, again, maybe some of us didn't really recognize, the reason why he didn't play so many snaps is because we saw that big play and thought, man, Gentry's an amazing player, but then the next play, he might have been an issue with some sort of breakdown. So that was something that I learned, and I watched this defense, and I thought Gentry Williams was a great player. I thought he should have been out there more, but understanding where Brent Venables is coming from, that makes a lot more sense. So hopefully he can gain in that consistency department, and that's something that I know he's going to want to work on. Brent Venables wants to work on that with him as well. So, yeah, I mean, just a lot of things overall so far that we're looking at that this defense should be the strength of the team as long as we can stay healthy. And you know, health is really all it takes too. I think that defensive front is going to be great. We can trust on that second level with guys like Danny Stutzman and you know, with maybe a cheetah like Dasan McCullough stepping in, and you know, and whoever else might step in there. You know, Jaron Kanik being a backup linebacker, a lot of high praises about him too, even from Danny Stutzman himself, talking about how he's really been putting in the work. So that defense is going to be a lot of fun to watch. No doubts about that over there. But another question mark that Oklahoma might have is, how good is this young quarterback, Jackson Arnold, going to be? Because the only big time game that we saw him play, and really the biggest I don't know, sample that we got from him was in that bowl game. But I want us to erase that out of our memory, just like I think Jackson Arnold is trying to do, outside of trying to learn from that experience. Because what's not expressed enough is how new the offensive line would have been at that time, and that this is a completely new offensive scheme, offensive coordinators into this game, that not just Jackson Arnold, but even the running backs, the wide receivers, the offensive line is all trying to adapt to, because Jeff Lebby left, and then, you know, we had Seth Luttrell come in and try to basically give this new game plan to a squad that had been playing something completely different all season long, and with a different quarterback. So recognizing all of that change, I want us not to take that bowl game too much to heart. I think I saw a lot of good things from that bowl game. I think I saw Jackson Arnold get a little more comfortable. Even though he threw those 3 picks, we saw him get more comfortable, and he also didn't get flustered after throwing those interceptions as well. So that's something I think that we can learn from Jackson Arnold, that I think we have to be happy with him as a player that he was able to do that much. So overall, looking at Jackson Arnold, we saw him in the BYU game step up and make big-time plays. That's the kind of quarterback that we can expect to see from him. I have all of the confidence in the world in Jackson Arnold, not just because of the way that I've heard him as a leader and how he's been expressing himself more as a vocal leader, as an emotional leader in the locker room, out on that field. So I think I have confidence in him, but then also hearing from the coaching staff and hearing from those around him, even Danny Stutzman talking about how much better he's gotten in practice. So Jackson Arnold, I think he's going to be just fine. I think he's going to fly under the radar early in the season until people realize this is a guy that has really improved a lot. And even Brent Venables said, he talked about Jackson Arnold saying, quote, "I think we're executing at a really high level right now. Decision-making is even better than it was. The guys around him are playing better. I think the offensive line is in a much better position than we were even in the spring. We had some guys, again, injured or weren't here yet. I didn't mention Gary and Hatchett. He's done fantastic, as well as an inside guy." So, I mean, a lot of high praise from Brent Venables himself. So these are extremely encouraging words coming from a defensive-minded coach. But we might even ask ourselves, what does a defensive coach know anything about a quarterback and his progression? Let me break it down to you and give it to you from another light. Recognizing that, Brent Venables, he has had to break down individuals on an offense as a defensive coordinator his entire career, leading up to being a head coach now for Oklahoma. He's been a defensive guy his entire career, breaking down individuals. even breaking down quarterbacks and learning how to stop those individuals, stopping an offense, stopping a quarterback as a defensive guy. So he knows a good quarterback when he sees one. So I think that recognizing that Brent Venables has had to watch way more film on an offense in his entire coaching career than anything. I think he knows a good quarterback when he sees one. I think he can tell the progressions in a good quarterback when he sees it too. And he's been giving a lot of high praise for Jackson Arnold and what he's been able to do so far. So definitely this is something that I think we can look at with Jackson Arnold and just step back and recognize, knowing that, hey, you know what? I think we're in good hands. But Sooner Nation, that's all we've got right now for fall camp. First, want to remind everybody, please hit that subscribe button, hit that like button as well, and comment down below. What do you want to hear about fall camp? What do you want to hear? Projections, maybe something that you want to hear going forward into this upcoming season. First season in the SEC. This is absolutely one of the most exciting seasons going into it that I can possibly think of, and that's why I accepted the role of starting this new production. This is something that I wouldn't have thought to do, but then with just a little bit of maybe an encouragement, went ahead and said, hey, why not? I would totally love to help out with this. So this is something that, if you guys have suggestions, please drop it down in the comments. Whatever the case is, please subscribe, like, comment down below. Follow me over on social media on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Real Josh Mahler for all the updates. And Sooner Nation, we'll catch you next time. Boomer.